XRP Bulls in Control. Now, what am I talking about here? Is XRP shooting up in price today? No. But the reason why I'm titling this episode today, XRP Bulls in Control, is because we're just setting a series of higher lows. XRP reclaiming that $2.30 yesterday. We spiked all the way up to $2.36 actually, but we see a little bit of a pullback, consolidation right at about $2.25, and now we're moving back up again. So we're going to title this one XRP Bulls in Control, because despite the few people that are taking profits or just cutting their losses, whatever they're doing, they cannot push the price of XRP down. We see that the ProShares ETFs that were set to go live here at the end of the month, April 30th, apparently those have been delayed until May 14th, but even that news was not able to push XRP price down. Normally in the past, we would see good news come out about Ripple XRP, price would go down. And especially any sort of bad news coming out, a delay on the ETF, everybody would start crying, market would go down. But that's not taking place. Something different here is happening. And what we can see on the charts is XRP is completely outperforming the rest of the altcoin space. Of course, you have outliers and meme coins that are pumping more than XRP, but I'm going to show you the XRP versus the altcoin chart at the end of this episode, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. But without further ado, I want to get into this update, remind everybody that we are going to be going live here tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday, Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern. See you there tonight. I don't know if we're going to be doing another giveaway, but that was a lot of fun, the one that we did last week. And I did end up giving away the 300 XRP yesterday. That felt amazing, felt really good. And so we're going to be doing a lot of other fun stuff like that on the upcoming live shows. Make sure you have that notification bell set so you don't miss it. Let's get right on into it, folks. Starting off here, we have Canada's newest Prime Minister, Mark Carney, having a vast resume. Let's take a look at it. 20 years at Goldman Sachs, governor of the Bank of Canada, went on to be the governor of the Bank of England. And we're going to point this one out because while he was at the head of Bank of England, this is when they were actually partnered up with Ripple in trying and testing out XRP. He also was the vice chair at Brookfield, board of trustees at the WEF, and he's an advisor to Stripe, Coho, Prince Charles, and the Oxford University. So, Canada, you have elected Mark Carney as your new prime minister. This is the direction you are heading. It's going to be very interesting to watch. In my opinion, this all but confirms essentially the direction that we're heading as far as a reset of the global monetary order. And you don't have to take it from me. I'm going to show you an article here from the IMF stating the global economy enters a new era. Amid trade tensions and high policy uncertainty, the path forward will be determined by how challenges are confronted and opportunities embraced. The global economic system, under which most countries have operated for the last 80 years, is being reset, ushering the world into a new era. See, this is called crazy talk just a short few years ago. Now we have the IMF admitting it. We've prior interviews from Mark Carney where he's talking about updating the system as well. And so the selection of Mark Carney, the placement by the powers that be of Mark Carney, to me just reiterates that point, that direction that we are heading in. Then I go on to say, existing rules are challenged while new ones are yet to emerge. Since late January, a flurry of tariff announcements by the United States, which started with Canada, China, Mexico, and critical sectors, culminated with near universal levies on April 2nd. The U.S. effective tariff rate surged past levels reached during the Great Depression, while counter responses from major trading partners significantly pushed up the global rate. So between what Trump is doing by setting all these new trade deals, you add in what Mark Carney is going to be doing up in Canada, and we add in what's taking place down in Mexico with Claudia, the president down there, first woman elected as the Mexico president, the change that she's bringing in. This is where, in my opinion, once the deals get negotiated between Canada, Mexico, and the United States, you're about to see an economic powerhouse block formed in this region. I'm very bullish in the opportunities that are going to present themselves. But the key thing that we have to understand, not everybody gets on the right side of this transfer of wealth. Not everybody's going to actually take the time to understand this global monetary order reset and how to position yourselves correctly. Now, if you listen to the Bitcoin bros, they would tell you just buy Bitcoin and chill, right? You have Carl Manga right here sharing that the Arizona state legislature just made history. The first state to launch a strategic Bitcoin reserve pledges up to 10% of public funds. But nobody looks at the details. They share all of these Bitcoin strategic reserve bills that are being passed at the state level, but they are simply only Bitcoin strategic reserve bills in name only. When you actually read these bills, which none of the Bitcoin bros take the time to do, but I do. I take the time for you. When you actually look at these are all virtual currency bills. Now, the structure on many of them is the coin needs to have a market cap of 750 billion for the prior year. And so currently, Bitcoin would be the only crypto that would meet that criteria for most of these bills. But they most definitely are leaving the door open for other cryptos like XRP, maybe Ethereum if they ever get up there. But they are leaving the door open for other cryptos, and the Bitcoin mainstream narratives are just not sharing that with you. Here's the bill text, and I pulled it up, Senate Bill 1025, and they do call it the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Bill. That is true, but like I said, it's in name only. When you read the first section here, in addition to the investment authority in Articles 2 and 2.1 of this chapter, a public fund may invest not more than 10% of the public monies under its control in virtual currency holdings. They don't say Bitcoin, they say virtual currency holdings. Well, what's the definition? What is the definition for the purposes of this section of a virtual currency? Well, let's go take a look. Virtual currency means a digital representation of value that functions as a medium of exchange. Does Bitcoin function as a medium of exchange? Well, not a very good one, but okay. A unit of account and a store of value. We'll give Bitcoin that, sure. Other than a representation of the United States dollar or a foreign currency. So they specifically mention virtual currency holdings. They define that as any medium of exchange, unit of account, or store of value in digital form other than the US dollar. So would that be exclusively a Bitcoin strategic reserve? No, none of these bills are. And this is why it's so important to be careful who you listen to, because these guys think that this is the end all be all and that the global monetary order is going to be reset with Bitcoin being the standard. That is not happening. In fact, when we look at what's happening at the state level, it's very interesting. We have JP Cortez, who I got to meet up in Vancouver at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. He's a fellow American working with the Sound Money Defense Project. And they are speaking here on behalf of the North Carolina Sound Money Act. The bill was approved by the House committee unanimously, and this would eliminate capital gains on gold and silver and would reaffirm the metals as constitutional legal tender. So while the Bitcoin bros try to say that this is only Bitcoin, that's not the case. It includes all virtual currencies. And another fact that they're leaving out is all of these states making gold and silver legal tender, once again, constitutional money, and removing capital gains tax on the assets. Now, in my state, we're actually raising the taxes on the sales of precious metals. So my state is going backwards, and I'm going to have to figure out how to get the heck out of this state. But in other states, dozens upon dozens of other states, they're making gold and silver legal tender, no capital gains tax, constitutional money. You add on to the record amount of central bank gold buying that's taking place, and we can firmly see that it is not a Bitcoin-only story like they try to perpetuate. It's absolutely lies. And the same thing's taking place with this most recent interview shared here by Blockworks, interviewing the chief investment officer of BlackRock. And she has great bullish takes on cryptocurrency technology, but the Bitcoin media narrative trying to spin this up as a Bitcoin-only story, once again, digital asset investors setting the record straight. The Bitcoiners tried to put this interview with BlackRock chief investment officer out as the typical Bitcoin, because that's how they roll interview. But here are the adult clips, as we always say, right? When the adults in the room actually speak. Is it Bitcoin? Definitely not. Quote, "We are really focused on the utility of bridges to investors looking for real-world problems to solve is a much better place to start. Brad Garlinghouse has said this probably 100 times in different ways. Absolutely. Continuing on, there is that 1% where I think that it is focused on solving a real problem for real customers and is able to do that at scale, and that's going to be game changing. There's a big difference here between the narratives that they're trying to push out, and I've been very critical because I think that the Bitcoin bros are doing a real disservice to not only the broader cryptocurrency space, but the effort for sound money, which does include our shiny pet rocks. You know, God's money that's been around for thousands of years is included. Now, we do it in the old world, in the physical world, and we also do it in the new world, in the digital world, right? We're hedged on both sides. We got cryptocurrencies with real utility. We got precious metals with real utility that also can serve as a store of value function. And that's exactly what BlackRock sees. And that's exactly why BlackRock will be launching ETFs that do include XRP, whether that be baskets, whether that be spot XRP ETFs. That's on the way. So please lock in. Now, as far as performance, well, not only are BlackRock, going to be looking to get exposure to their investors to real utility, they're also going to be looking at what are the best performers. Despite all the hype, despite all the narratives that they're trying to shove down our throats, what coins are actually performing? Is it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? No, not even close, especially since Trump's election. Now, before Trump's election, you could maybe make a different argument. You could say that XRP was lagging, Bitcoin, Ethereum were having a good time while they had a free pass. Now that we're on a level playing field, now that we're in a new reality, couldn't be more clear that XRP is outperforming all of these coins. Take a look at it from Dom, Trader View. Folks call us XRP maxis. No, we're just an outperformance maxi. Where are we going to make the most amount of money? Here's a chart of XRP versus Total 2. Ridiculous outperformance. Why wouldn't I chart and trade the strongest large cap since the election? That would be XRP versus Total 2. Take a look at the chart. I mean, the outperformance is resounding. The strength is on display. Flip over to his next post. XRP versus Total 2, top 125 minus ETH. When you chart XRP versus the altcoin market, it shows a clear picture. XRP continues to massively hold its ground against the broader market. 400% rally, followed by 3 months of sideways action. It surely looks like nothing. It surely looks nothing like the last top since 2020. This time is different. It really is. Not only is it being reflected in the charts, we're noting that in the fundamentals, and we're about to see the ETFs fire up, and a massive wave of liquidity will be coming in for XRP. Now, is that to say that we're not going to make money in some of these other altcoins? No, you absolutely will. In fact, there will be meme coins, there will be other coins that will outperform XRP this cycle. But when it comes to having certainty and conviction, this is where we have our fundamental plays like XRP, and XRP in the lead is the reason why it's my number one bag. But you've seen me mention some of my most recent trades here recently. I am looking at other cryptos. I will trade an XRP meme coin once in a while. I do go to the digital casino on the XRP ledger, but I know my limit and I play within it. I like to caution you guys on that. But the case here is very clear. They cannot push XRP down. I'm going to take you to the XRP price chart and show you what I'm talking about. We just popped back up here in the last hour above 230. Okay, this is the hourly chart. And you can see what happened here. XRP's just been moving back up all the way here to 236 yesterday. Brings it back down to 224, 225 essentially. We set that, and we just continue to set a series of higher lows, and we've been doing it since April 7th when we bottomed out at $1.60. Can you guys let me know in the chat if you were able to scoop up XRP below $2? Because God bless you for doing so. God bless you for doing so. You're already up 20, 30, maybe 40% if you scooped up the lows below $1.70. And yeah, XRP, when I say bulls are in control, I'm not talking about XRP pumping, 20% today. That's not taking place. But despite bad news coming out, like the ProShares ETFs being delayed, price isn't coming down. Despite, the Bitcoin maxi narrative, they cannot stop XRP from being in control of this bull run right now. All eyes are on XRP. Most new investors are skipping over Bitcoin to go into XRP or to go into meme coins. And that's the fact. They can cry as much as they want, and it's not going to change that fact. Why? Because people want to make money. And when people make money on the meme coins, on the silly stuff, on the pumps, they need to go back to safety. They need to go back to certainty. They need to go back to conviction. And that's what they're finding in XRP. So this is why I say XRP bulls are in control. Any pullbacks are going to be temporary. We've seen the worst of it. We got completely flushed out back in February. And that was the largest liquidation event in the history of crypto. That's what it took to get XRP below $2. And then it took the announcement of the largest tariff and trade war basically ever to get XRP back down to $1.60. We've seen the worst of it. We are moving higher, and that is going to continue. My anticipation is that XRP will be above $3 later this month, and an all-time high for XRP is coming in sometime probably in May, June, probably by the 4th of July. So lock in. We'll be back tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there. It's going to be an absolute party, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in to today's show. On the way out, if you could like it, I'd appreciate you even more. We'll see you tonight. God bless. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.